Welcome, Darklings, to Season 3 of the ReignofBlood podcast. I'm Ember, one of your hosts, here to introduce you to the shadowy depths of what hopes to be our most sinister season yet. This season, your unholy trinity of organizers and hosts, Miss Kitten, Radically Dark, and myself, have entirely way too much fun with the Summer of Stabs, our 80s horror-themed series that promises to be both educational and thrilling. Our aim is to explore the macabre beauty that lies in the shadowed, or maybe not so shadowed, spaces of desire. Leading up to Reign of Blood Nightfall, our advanced Halloween extravaganza, we'll be discussing topics such as embodied and informed consent, risk mitigation, and other helpful tips, ensuring that every prick, slice, and puncture is as thought through as it is sensational for you. We'll also continue interviewing sharks enthusiasts from around the world to find out what makes the blood-loving heart tick. And maybe we'll talk Miss K into recording some more horror meditations for us. Join us as we explore the eerie, the edgy, and the exquisitely sharp. This is Reign of Blood, where the macabre meets the magnificent, and the only limit is your imagination, risk profile, and informed consent. Let the Summer of Stabs begin. But first, a content warning. This podcast is not suited for individuals who are not legal adults, are not interested in heavier BDSM practices, who are presently having severe mental or relationship health concerns, or who do not already understand basic BDSM practices regarding consent, ethics, risk mitigation, etc. Topics may include things like mental health issues, social issues, injustice, blood and sharks, of course, medical trauma, medical issues, trauma of various types, and more. Listener discretion is heavily advised.
Hey, amazing shops lovers, welcome back. It's so good to be with you guys again, and I have an incredible guest. I'm absolutely in awe of this human's work and her art and her abilities. I am very pleased to introduce and welcome Frankie Fixation to my podcast today. And on behalf of the Reign of Blood team, Frankie, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So, Frankie, you are just one of the most amazing flyers. You tick all my boxes. Huge fangirl crush from Africa, and so much respect. I was introduced again to your work. We had been following you for a while, but I was introduced again to your work through the piece that Mel Sprinkles did on you. So, just want to say, like, I think you're like legendary. And I know my listeners absolutely love you as well. So we're really excited to have you in the dungeon. But maybe you could just tell us how you went from being like a super normal muggle human being to being this amazing hook suspension flyer extraordinaire that we all admire so much.
Well, I guess my first exposure to suspension was around 2009. I was a preteen, and there's a horror movie called Horseman, not to be confused with A Man Called Horse. And it showed 3 different body suspensions in that movie. And I just found it super interesting and super beautiful. But it wasn't until adulthood that I was able to be exposed to it again through my partner. And I actually got to start seeing it in person. And then he started, hey, if you would like to help, we can always use extra hands. So I kind of got into it on the side with helping with like bio, and I got my bloodborne pathogens and took a few other classes just so I kind of understood what was going on and what was needed of me. And then after about like a year of watching, I'd say like, first timers, seasoned suspendees, just all the different types of experiences, all the different things people were getting out of it. I knew it was something I had to try. It was something I really wanted.
Can you, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit about that first suspension and what it felt like to go up for the first time?
My first suspension was actually done in my bedroom. I have a little rig point in my bedroom from the ceiling. And so it was definitely a lot more, what's the word? I don't want to say that it definitely was private, but it was definitely just a lot more. It was me and it was my spouse. And it was just,
Intimate.
yes, more of an intimate moment. I definitely didn't want it to be around anybody my first time because I didn't know how I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to react to the piercings. And I was just a little, didn't want to share that moment the first time. And I was able to get off the ground, but only because I pulled myself up. I tried to get Sean to do it a full time, but it was just something about that control of someone just, I couldn't do it. I had to get him to hand me the rope, and that's the only reason I was able to actually get off the ground. And I only stayed up for about 3 minutes. I felt a little defeated, but I definitely knew it was something I wanted to do again. So about 6 months later, we did my second suspension. And this suspension was so much better. I kind of knew what to expect. I was ready to get up there and do some spins, do some twirls, but I got a little overzealous and was doing a little too much spinning and didn't quite know how to make the room stop. So I got brought down after about like 4 minutes on my second suspension. But my third suspension was my favorite. I was up for about 15 minutes. It was amazing. I got to do everything. The spins didn't bother me that time. I felt more grounded. I felt like it was the experience that I had worked towards, if that makes sense. Like
Definitely.
preparing for, like this was the moment, like this was the suspension I wanted. But it took me twice to get to what I visually had wanted for myself, if that makes sense, or what I had envisioned for myself for my first time being. And that's why I think some people get so discouraged because they think their first time, if they have a hard time, they totally just don't ever want to do it again. And it's like, no, 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 no. You can do it again. If this is something you want, this is something that interests you, don't get discouraged because the first time or the second time might not have been exactly what you wanted. This is something that you can still do. It might even be something like moving the hooks around on your body is what you need. Like you might not like your back, but you might love your knees.
I love that. That's such great advice. I think the idea of the suspension can be super overwhelming in the beginning. And I can tell you from my point of view that I didn't know what to prepare for. I had no idea what to expect, so the entire thing was just overwhelming. And a lot of the moments in that first session for me was I was just overwhelmed. Like I had no idea what was coming next. I had no idea which was going to be the hard part. The bits I thought that was going to be hard was super easy. The bits I hadn't even considered was super hard. Like it was just such new territory that it took me such a long time to digest the first time. So I definitely agree with you. Like you don't know what you don't know. Once you know what to expect, it's so much more, it's so much easier. And you verbalized it so well. You really explained it so well. I absolutely loved listening to that.
Yeah, I definitely, like you said, you even going and thinking you might know, I feel like you still don't fully know until you do it. And then once you do it, it's like trying to convey that to other people. You can do your best, but it's like you're almost in a club. Once you've done it, you understand. Does that make sense?
100%. And I think like when I prepared for it, because I had to wait a really long time for my first one, and I was really like I had done the physical fitness. I was running like a machine. I was hydrating super well. Like
Hell
I
yeah.
prepared like physically, like I was a machine. Like I ticked all the boxes. But because I didn't know what to expect mentally, like I hadn't even gotten into the mental side of it, because it was something that you don't know until you're there, and you don't know how you're going to react. You don't know what's going to come up. You don't know where you're going to put it, or how you're going to deal with it. It's a super big, overwhelming experience. And then when you get to be able to do it again, you have so much more knowledge to base your preparation on. Like I ran like I didn't run half as much. Like I was super lazy and I relaxed a lot. And I think also like I just came in with much less anxiety. And yeah, I think it is a bit of a club. Once you've got up, you know exactly what to expect. But until you do, um, and people can't verbalize it. I agree with that because you get a million different answers, and everybody's experience is completely different. And I think also exactly like you've described now, where you do your first suspension and the environment you're in also has a lot to do with how successful it is and what that leaves you with. And I love the fact that you did an intimate suspension because I didn't. My partner was outside throwing up, and
Oh.
and it was crazy. It was like there was more chaos around me than in the actual suspension, and it was just if I had to choose that moment again, I would definitely go for something that was just me and the space and the person that was guiding me. I think that would have been probably a far better idea than doing a public thing where I had somebody on the balcony throwing up, and it was that was the suspension was great. The crowd was traumatic, so I think it. I think it's just important. So I love that yours was intimate, and I think it's an incredibly intimate experience for you as a for the person experiencing it. It's like, and it's something that you don't expect. I didn't expect to feel what I felt. Put it that way. For me,
Right,
it
right.
was life changing. I did put it this way, it's put pain in a totally new. I do a lot of painful things. Like I love pain. I do a lot of painful things, but it put pain in a whole new bracket for me. Like it also showed me how much I could achieve with my body. Like I was so super
Yeah.
proud. Like
It
I
shows
think
how
it
strong you are.
right. It's my body's such an incredible thing. I was so proud of
Yeah.
little me. I was like, tick that box, bitch. You did it.
That's like the best feeling too. That little like, wow, I fucking did that shit.
Hey, no, it's incredible. And like some people saying, oh, they've had this injury and they're a bit sore. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You have no idea what pain is.
Right?
Yeah, and also just the fact that you have the ability to overcome that. Like mentally you can, and it gets easier. And once you know what to expect, it's so much easier to prepare for that experience.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
Hey, and then like a tough day at work is like, ah, bitch, this is nothing. I've got this shit.
Right, exactly. No, it really does though. It definitely helps me in other aspects of my life. Where if I'm going through a hard time, I'm like, I fucking got this. Like I hang from hooks. I'm good. Like I got this. This ain't nothing.
Yeah, and you hang from hooks from all different types of all different places of your body. Where's your favorite place to be suspended by?
I really love my side, like my rib cage. I like my armpits. I like my back. I like a lot. My knees. I love my knees, but my scar tissue is getting a little intense on my knees, so I'm gonna have to take a break from them for a while.
Oh, that's amazing. I think knees are next. I think I definitely
Oh,
give that one a shot. It looks
I
amazing.
yes, I totally recommend it, especially because being upside down adds a whole nother element to the suspension. Like it's amazing. No, everybody loves their knees. I don't think I know anybody who's ever said anything bad about their knees.
That's so cool. No, I definitely my knees are next. Um, I'm not scared. I'm not scared at all of needles. In fact, I'm more scared of like needles in my back than I am of needles in my legs. So the whole
Is it
thing
because
is
you
just
can't see it?
I don't know. Like my back's just super sensitive.
Gotcha.
It's just super sensitive. It's ridiculously sensitive. My thighs. I love putting needles in my thighs. I do it for fun. Like literally, like it's a form of self-care in
Yeah.
stages of my life. So, like it just feels like it should be the next place to go. Um, do you prefer what is your favorite part of the suspension? What do you look forward to most?
Um, there's so many different parts of it. Whether like, gosh, that's a hard one because like there's like things I love about helping other people achieve something they've strived after. There's the what I personally get out of it. A big part of it is that I'm lucky enough to get to do this with a lot of people who mean a lot to me. My spouse, my friends, my family, and that's something that not a lot of people have in this community. Uh, their parents are either turned off by it, or their partner doesn't want them to have anything to do with it, or their friends think they're freaky, But I have a lot of people who support me in this and who have helped me make a dream reality with the church and everything.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about the church? And I want to say, like, it's hard for some people. My experience, the girl that was seconding for the guy that threw my hooks passed out. She had she saw the second hook go in and she hit the ground. My
Oh,
partner was over the balcony throwing up. So I
mhm.
think like it's interesting how everybody has their own perception of the event, and then the person getting the hooks in them has their own perception of the event, and how
Yes.
it is one thing that can affect an entire room.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I really loved what you said about how much support you feel in the community that you have, and through doing this, because the one thing that came out of my first suspension was how loved I really was and how supported I really
Yeah.
was. Like that oak was standing on the balcony hurling cats, but he was there. He was
Yeah, and he
there.
wanted to be there with because it was important to you, and that's really important. Because I've met spouses who are like, "This shit's disgusting," and they're disgusting, and I want no part of this. I've met people whose family members have like tried to talk them out of it, and it's almost like they don't find their support until they find us, if that makes sense. And then it's someone telling them, "No, you're amazing. No, you got this. Like, wow, look at you. You're beautiful. You can do this. Like, you're a badass. You took 10 hooks. Like, look at you. You're the star. You're amazing." And, people
Yeah.
need that. People deserve that. People deserve to feel that way about themselves, especially with the huge accomplishment that, I mean, most people aren't into. I feel
I
like
think
if suspension or sharps is something you're into, like, this is what what, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, I love your rambling, and I so agree with that. And I think anybody in our sharps community who does sharps on any level, and who faces that fear, because for some people, even just a 27 gauge needle is a lot, and
Yeah.
getting through that is like it's huge. Like, and I think it's overcoming something internally, and it's a different type of bravery. So it doesn't matter what size the hook is or what size the needle is, like just showing up, and committing to the process and learning about the process and doing your homework and being present in the moment, is a huge achievement, and it's something that will change your life, even if it's throwing a small needle or if it's floating around a church like Frankie. Like that is just epic. But I'm sorry, I was rambling. I was going to ask you about your Church of Suspension. Tell me a little bit about it, and how you got there.
Yeah, so we had been looking for a space, just something with high ceilings. And we just weren't really seeing anything that kind of fit the vibe. But we just happened to meet this guy who decided he wanted to sell his church, and he was pretty much done with it. And his loss was COVID kind of killed off the congregation. So nobody was attending anymore because COVID was going on at this time. And then he actually had a furnace go out. So that took a lot of money off of the asking price. So again, his loss, our gain. But other than that, after getting the building, it was a lot of, kind of like cleaning up, fixing things. We had to get the ceiling rated. We live in Michigan, and Michigan gets a lot of snow. So it took a minute for us to get. So to be able to go from the ceiling, we had to get it rated for how much snow might accumulate on the roof per year. And it was really hard to average out a might be. So that took us a little time. So we had the rig in there for a while before we were able to install the ceiling point. So we got the ceiling point in there earlier this year. Super excited. It was 2 years in the making. I'm finally happy. I didn't know how long, it was going to take before, the city was like, I almost felt like they were just going to put a stop to it, but they've been very cool. The neighborhood's really cool. It's a really progressive neighborhood. They know what we're doing with the place, no issues. So it's not like, when we have meets and everything, we have all these people come that we're getting like accosted by the community. There's no protest of what we're doing. So that's been really refreshing. We basically run the events from noon to midnight. We go all day. Being able to have no time constraints. Some of these shows or events, it's very time oriented. You are on these people's time and you have a time slot to do this stuff, and that is your time slot. My church, I have no time slot. I can do things all day. If I want to take extra time, if someone needs just a little bit longer to get up off the ground, it's just more of a relaxed environment. It's not a go, go, go environment. And I like that slow pacing to it. And I feel like it's something my clients appreciate, if that makes sense. It's a lot less here, show up, take photos, bye. It's, hey, we're hanging out, we're getting to know each other, we're getting to meet each other, and we're all going to end up seeing each other at the next event.
I love that, and I think the one thing Shops as a community has taught me is that intent really matters. And I think we're in a community where we're very much driven by a perfectionist picture, but sometimes the intent in the experience is lost a little bit. Like there was a part of my journey where I just had to be. I couldn't put out anything that wasn't absolutely epic work. And we have
Yes.
some epic artists, and I'm never going to be, my brain's never going to be on that level. And it's not what the work means to me. And so for a while, it was just about the finished piece. And then I had to go back and I had to think about how the experience was more important than the photograph, and it really didn't matter about the photograph. What really mattered was that I was holding the space, and that the space was connective, and that the space was joyous and happy and healing in a lot of ways, instead of just worried about this perfect piece. So my piece got slightly less perfect, but the experience is just so much more gratifying. So that intent, and just listening to you speak about intent, I've had a couple of people on my podcast. Mel was one of them, and her young new apprentice Andrew was another one of them, that just really spoke about holding space for people to enjoy what they're doing and to appreciate the moment and to be present without. And you just said it as well, so taking the time constraint away just allows people to absorb what's happening and to have a moment for themselves, because I think there's just enough pressure all over in the rest of the world. So I absolutely love that. I think that's beautiful. And because we mentioned it a couple of times, tell me a little bit about your piece with Mel, because that was amazing.
Oh my God, it was so fun. I've been a fan of her for years. I'm like her #1 fangirl. I love her so much. All of her stuff's amazing. And I've just been talking to her for years about I would just love to do something, get a piece by her. Our travel schedules have never really like meshed, but this year they were finally able. And she graced me and was lucky enough to come out and help me with this. It was beautiful. She had this little sketch all designed in her head of how these trains were to be draped on me. I was a little nervous initially. I'm not gonna lie about the piercings, but she's amazing. She was like butter. She was one of the best piercers, hands down. Everything was perfect. Like I don't even know how to describe the photos. We just got the photos back from the photographer. They're amazing. She just has such a vision for some of these play piercings that I feel she just I'm not really sure. I'm sorry. She just has these
No, Frankie.
visions.
Frankie,
that she brings to life.
yeah, I saw in Mel's little I don't even know, like her hole, which is her creative room at home. I saw her whole sheet with all her hooks on and all her chains hanging and
Yeah,
her whole prep for your piece. And I just like I absolutely adore her because she has this level of excitement that she manages to pass across the ocean every time I
yeah.
speak to her. And she was so fucking excited to do your piece. She was like, and she had the whole thing, like she literally turned her whole room into like a Frankie shrine because there was like a cardboard Frankie in there with all her
Oh my
pieces
God. Was it the
hanging.
photo? Oh my God, I know what photo that probably was too. That's hilarious. I love that.
And there was like a whole like cardboard Frankie in her space, and she's just so meticulous in her planning and how she works
She
it out.
is.
And yeah, she's just amazing. She's just absolutely incredible in how she does it. And yeah, so huge respect. And I haven't seen your latest pictures, but I saw some of the videos, and they're fucking amazing. You look absolutely gorgeous, girl, and you
Thank
just
you.
yeah, you just brought a whole new level of spirituality to a chandelier. Like nothing is ever gonna compare to that. What was your favorite part of that piece?
I think the chains. So I was already in the air as they started to attach them, and I didn't know how heavy they were going to really feel. And they were very lightweight. They were very comfortable. Like I was really nervous this might be like a lot of weight added, and it didn't feel like anything. It felt like a t-shirt, you know. And so the fact that I was really able to get more into it, and made me really, really happy, you know, like, yay, this is going perfectly, you know, like, yay, nothing's going wrong, everything's going right, nothing hurts, nothing's bleeding, everything's amazing.
Think that the chains are like, and I have to like give Mel her credit because we've tried to do chains. First of all, those rings are just they're a nightmare. They're an
Right?
absolute nightmare. No, they're a nightmare. They are like they were sent by Satan. They were really designed by somebody with a serious sadistic sense of humor because they're super hard to use and they not so easy, and you've got to have the right balance of chain to ring because if you don't, you either get these like odd shaped nipples
Yeah,
that start to hang off your
yep,
body, and
yep.
yeah, it's super hard. So I think it's you know the idea that she just put a couple of holes in and chucked some chains up, she needs to be credited a bit more than that. There's a whole bunch of weight distribution and how
Oh
much
yeah, and
weight
then
compared to.
she even added a little more weight to it. She added these prism crystals, so when they would catch the light, and so the distribution was amazing. Like it was just like hands down one of the best experience I've ever had. Being a fan is one thing, but getting to actually see her work, getting actually to see her process, truly amazing. I can't wait to work with her again.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I can't wait to see you work with her again. We're stuck in the middle of Africa, and hopefully one day I will be able to come to your church,
Oh, you're
um,
always invited.
and experience one of your events, and also just to hang out with Mel would be definitely on my bucket list one day when I'm big. Um, but until then, we'll just live vicariously through your beautiful work, and really any advice for somebody who is new to doing this, and is a little bit nervous. What would you tell them?
Hmm. I feel like it's okay to be nervous. I feel like being nervous is completely normal. I still get nervous, you know,
Really?
doing, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I still get nervous. I feel like it's just very normal. I feel like that's just, if you don't get nervous, something's up. Like
I,
the adrenaline's going to be in your body.
I
Like,
I always say to people who come to me for needles, I always say to them, if you aren't a little bit nervous, you're a psychopath. It's completely
exactly.
okay. It's completely okay to be nervous. It's a sign that you're also human, like, and you're a
Oh,
real
yeah.
human. This is like tick the box. You don't have to like pick the robots or the traffic lights on the computer to prove that you're human. This proves that you're superhuman and that you're a real person.
Yeah, I feel like doing things that make you nervous, it can help you grow and overcome those nerves, you know? I am really more of a behind the scenes person. Crowds actually terrify me. Um, I much rather be just over here, you know, doing my thing, or behind the booth getting all the equipment ready, or waiting for the suspendees to come down, and I'm going to be at the booth burping their backs, doing their bio and everything. But those
That's me.
nerves, I also feel like you can use them, because I feel like those nerves are also another form of endorphins and adrenaline. And when I'm feeling those feelings, I really like to use them, you know, to help me with my suspension. And almost like it makes it where I'm not even feeling the pain, because I'm going through other stuff in my head that I'm working through, and I'm trying to get those nerves out. And then once you succeed, it's like, what was I even nervous for?
And yet, every time you do it, you're still a little bit nervous.
Just a little bit. Yep.
Just a little bit. I love that. That's very cute. Absolutely love that. And it's good to know that our heroes still also have nerves. It makes you very human. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Um, is there something about hook suspension that surprises people when they do it for the first time that you see um in your
I think
experiences?
so. As far as what surprises people, you know, there's of course like what I would call, you know, a normie, someone who has no idea what this is, never seen it before, never been exposed to it. Sometimes they give a little, you know, funny remarks, or their jaws drop, or they can't believe what they're seeing. They're like, oh my God, how are you not ripping out? How are you not in pain? What are you doing to that person? You know, but for the most part, people are really respective and receptive of it. They think it's beautiful, or they think it's hella cool, or they think it's badass or hardcore. And I find that very refreshing. That I feel like almost a couple years ago, it definitely would have been a lot more negativity versus what it is today.
That's so interesting. It's interesting for me to be miles away from you and hear that it's only now being more accepted, because it's something that's very underground in my community. It's definitely not. We have a sort of very one of our languages is Afrikaans. We have a very Afrikaans culture here, and their religion is very staunch. It's very and this is like this is devil worship in any,
Yeah.
yeah, this is like
Yeah.
bordering on like pure Satanism. Like, and it's ridiculous because it's such a freeing experience, and it is. And the other thing I think that people overlook in this whole thing, and you mentioned it right in the beginning, and I really loved hearing you speak about it, is how much goes into the risk mitigation and planning of this. Like you already said, like you did the blood pathogen thing to start, and
Yes.
you know there was a whole bunch of learning that went with it. And I think that's the one thing in the shops community that I just absolutely love, probably because I love, and my brain is like like I love information and I love collecting information and I love researching things, but so it ticks all my boxes. It's probably more of my fetish than shops. But
Mhm.
you know, that the guys that are doing the guys that are doing these suspensions are really professional, and they really are they really take great pride in how much information they have on the subject, and they're always learning and they're sharing information with each other. And it's, you know, so I think that people you don't give that enough respect. And it's just amazing to hear that, you know, before you even went up in the air, blood pathogens was something that you were already ticking the box for, because
Oh,
yeah, it's huge. And I think in this day and
yes.
age, yeah, but I think in this day and age, like not enough people talk about it. Um, we have a very we have one section of our community that is quite open sexually compared to the rest of our society, that is that's very
Yeah.
very on their vanilla path, but they still using words like clean, and you know, to talk about blood pathogens and stuff like that. And it's amazing to spend time in a space where somebody's saying, yeah, this is normal, like this is what we did before we did this, because it's the right way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so hats off to you. How do you,
Thank
can you tell
you.
me a little bit about what the blood pathogen course is like and how you do it and where you do it through?
I
How
did an
accessible is it?
online bloodborne pathogen course offered in Florida. It's basically an hour-long class, and they basically test you afterwards, and you just use your knowledge from that course. Florida, luckily, their BBP is accepted in every state in the United States because they have more regulations on what they require for you to actually pass them.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, you see, even when you were talking earlier about how Michigan has this rule about their roofs and you can
Yeah,
go
the
through all this
snow.
planning. Yeah, like
Yep.
I live in Africa, we don't have smoke alarms. When you guys talk about, that you have events that have a safety officer, I don't even think our presidential functions in this country have a safety officer. Like that is a role that that I don't think it's ever been filled in my country. So it's fascinating to hear the differences, and it's lovely to hear that there is a place in the world that is first world enough that these things are important and safety is a consideration. So I know it's a pain, and it was a struggle for you, but it's far better than the idea in Africa where nobody would check anything and somebody would just suspend off a beam and it would break.
Yeah, it's definitely, as fun as it is and as cool as it is and everything, there's definitely is a risk factor that I think is not talked about a lot. I think some people just kind of get into it for the shock and awe, or like you mentioned, some people just might be getting into it and might not be knowledgeable or might not even be thinking about, like you said, just putting up on any beam. And it's like, no, you really need to weight that beam. You need to test that beam. You need to make sure it's structurally sound before you just throw a body on there, because you're kind of playing with somebody's life.
And I also think the person that's doing your suspension, you like vet your players, like go and it's something that I really encourage any person getting into sharps to vet their tops. And the vetting
Yes.
is not just asking other people questions, because for me it's an energy thing as well. So my energy might not gel with somebody else's top's energy. They might be a great top, but we just might not connect. So you need to actually go and hang out in the space a little bit and see that it works for you and see that you feel comfortable. And then, also do your own research. Like, don't arrive and expect the person doing the suspension or doing the topping of the sharps to be the one providing all the information. You need to
Yes.
have an understanding of what you're about to go through. There's personal responsibility. But I kind of see anything like this as an extreme sport. Like you
Yes.
wouldn't,
Oh my God. Yes.
yeah, and you wouldn't do some ridiculous extreme sport like skydiving without researching the company, or maybe you
Yeah.
would, maybe you would, but I wouldn't. Like researching the company or researching what kits you would need. Like just have an idea of what the basics were, and then so that you had some information to ask questions about. And I think that always makes me, as a sharps top, feel more comfortable when the person coming to me has relative questions that are, and no question is stupid, and I really love answering them because it makes
Yes.
people feel
Yeah.
like they're participating in the process and that they're taking personal responsibility in it. Yeah,
Well, it makes me
so
feel comfortable too,
right, like it's
like
not
we're
like
putting ourselves in a vulnerable area. Like it's nice that our questions are answered not rudely, or we feel like we can answer the question or have our questions. We feel like we can ask our questions without fear of someone making fun of us or thinking we're stupid.
yeah, and I think there is no stupid question. And I think the one thing that yeah, maybe nerves when you're first meeting somebody or getting involved with them, it stops you from asking the questions. But I always feel like that's a big thing for me. If I feel unable to ask the question, it's probably the wrong person for me for the experience. Like I need to feel comfortable enough to ask the question, because then I also feel comfortable enough to express myself during the experience if it's not working for me. So it's one of my red flags. Like if my energy is telling me that I'm too scared to ask this person a question, like he's probably the wrong person or she's probably the wrong person for me to be doing this shit with. Like, and that's okay. It doesn't make them a bad person. It just probably
No,
makes
it's
them
a
the wrong person.
comfortability.
Yeah, it just makes them the wrong person for me to
Yeah.
be experiencing it with. What is the funniest reaction you got from someone watching you perform?
I don't really pay too much attention while I'm in the air, but obviously, I see photos and I see videos after I'm down, and some of the reactions are pretty funny. Some people, some people are like, "Oh my god!" Like some people are like mouths down to the floor, like pointing, just like, "What the hell?" Like stuff like that.
And what is the best reaction you've ever got?
Oh, hmm. Okay, so this was before my parents ever got to see me do any type of suspension. I was in Ohio, and it just happened that my dad's best man from his wedding was in the crowd, and he got to watch my suspension. Him and his wife and their daughter Emily, and I didn't even know they were there. And once I came down, they came up and saw me, and like I pretty much started crying. He's like, "Oh my god, it's my dad's best friend. My parents haven't even seen me suspend yet. You got to see me suspend. I almost feel like my parents just watched me. It's amazing. Thank you." And he was so cool. And he's like, "That was so amazing. You were beautiful. You killed it. I've never seen that before. That was wild." He was very receptive. He was very nice, and it meant a lot.
Oh, I love that. And I love hearing your voice when you spoke about it. I can really hear that it meant a lot. And um, just talking to you has been so authentic. And Frankie, I think like my crush is now like 100 times more. You really are an incredible human being, and I appreciate you being brave enough to show up for me today and share your journey with everyone. On behalf of my team and myself, we love you. We really like weirdly love you from Africa. Not all the teams from Africa, and as weird as me, some of them are from the States. They're less weird than I am. But huge respect, and keep doing what you do. And thank you for sharing a bit of your journey with me tonight. I love that.
Thank you for everything. I don't normally go out of my comfort zone for speech, and this is something I really wanted to do because I really don't talk about suspension publicly. But it's something I want to talk more about publicly. So I really want to thank you for helping me push through the nerves I had today to go through this, interview. I had nerves of sounding stupid or rambling, and you've been a lot of help, and I really appreciate you.
Oh, I've got the hugest grin on my face. Like I feel like a kid at school that just got chosen for something really special. Like it's ridiculous. So you brought a little bit of joy to my corner, my dark corner of Africa too. I'm really grateful, and just the best of luck for your church. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring the whole world. The whole world is watching, and we are all in love with you, and we think you're amazing, and we have huge respect for what you do.
Well, thank you for everything. We're gonna have to get you all out here one day to the church.
It's a deal. I'm coming. And to all my listeners, we have ReignofBlood coming up. We have some scholarship tickets available. If you need a scholarship, we believe that education should be for everybody, and that price should never be a barrier. So please get hold of us and get hold of the team. If you haven't got your ReignofBlood ticket, what are you doing with your lives, people? You need to have this ticket. We've dropped the first 10 out of our 30 presenters for the festival. We're super excited. We're super excited for the next 20, so keep watching our page and getting as much info as you can. We still have the early bird special. We also have our summer of stabs running at the moment, so if you guys are looking for some cool bloody way to spend your weekend, come and have a look at what we've got on our summer of stabs special. Check us out on Patreon, and stay listening and stay loving our podcast. We hope you're having a fabulous bloody time. And from my dungeon in Cape Town, South Africa, lots of love and kitten kisses.